Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jacinta. It is your first time here. Thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to cut and set this black dress. If it's what you love to learn, kindly watch till the end. And if you're yet to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button below and also turn on your notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. So without wasting much time, let's jump right into the tutorial. This is the fabric I'm using for this tutorial. It's a crepe fabric and I have 3 yards here. The chantilly lace I used is 1 yard. From the tip of my pattern paper, I'll mark 2 inches downwards and square across, and I will label that shoulder line. Placing my tape on the shoulder line, I'll mark downwards to my bust point, which is 10 inches. I'll make a mark there and square across. On the shoulder line, I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. Then on that 8 inches point, I'm going to come downwards by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope. Still on the shoulder line, I'll come inwards by 3 inches for the neck width and connect from the neck width to the 1.5 shoulder slope. Placing my tape on the shoulder slope, I'll mark 7 inches downwards my armhole level and connect with a straight line. On the point where the armhole level ended, I'll extend the line outwards this way and label chest line. I'll find the midpoint of the straight line. On that midpoint, I'll come in by ½ inch. On my chest line, I'm going to mark quarter of my bust circumference. They use my curved ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to the ½ inch I came in by to quarter of my bust circumference I marked on the chest line, and this forms my armhole curve. Placing my tape on the shoulder line, I will mark 16 inches downwards and square across, and I'm going to label it half length. Placing my tape on the half length line, I will mark 9 inches downwards and square across, and I will label it hip line. I will also mark the knee line, the full length I'm working with, and extra 2 inches for folding of the hem. After marking this line, I'll square across and label the lines. On the half length, I'll come in by 4 inches, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll also mark 4 inches on the bust line and on the hip line and connect with a straight line. I'll mark 6 inches downwards from my half length. On the half length, I'm going to come in by ½ inch on both sides of the dart line and use my ruler to connect the ½ inch I mark on both sides to the dart line on the bust line and downwards to the 6 inches I marked. I'll mark quarter of my bust circumference on the bust line, another extra 1½ inch sewing allowance. On the waistline also, I'll mark quarter of my bust circumference and add extra 1½ inch sewing allowance. I'm going to replace this 1 inch that by the side, and on the hip line, I'll do exactly the same thing. I'll divide my hip circumference by 4 and mark whatever it gave me, and I'm going to add extra 1½ inch sewing allowance. On the knee line, I'll minus 3 inches from my hip circumference and divide it by 4, mark whatever it gave me there, and also add 1½ inch sewing allowance. Whatever measurement I marked on the knee line is what I'm going to mark on the full length and on the allowance line. After making these measurements, I'm going to use my ruler to connect all the marks. I'll just cut this out so I can have more space on my table. What I'm going to do now is to draw the bust circle. To do this, I'll place my compass on my bust point and make the wideness of the compass to be half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches, and draw a circle round like this. If you don't have a compass or you don't know how to use a compass, you place your tape on the bust point and mark 4 inches round with a dotted line, just like the way you see me doing. Then you connect it. I'll place my tape on the half length and take the measurement from the half length to under the bust circle. Whatever measurement I get, I will mark it upwards from the half length, square across, and label that my under bust. At the under bust, I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg and connect upwards to the bust point and downwards to the half length. This is called the tightening of the under bust. Now for the neckline, I will mark 1½ inch upwards from the bust line. This neckline depends totally on what you want. If you want your bust to show, you're going to come down, or you can mark exactly on the bust line. But if you don't want it to show, you're going to go up more. So this depends on what you want. After marking, I will connect it to the chest line with my curved ruler. For the front yoke, on the shoulder line, I'm going to come in by 2.5 inch for the neck width and reconnect it. From the water of the bust measurement I marked on the chest line, I will mark 5 inches inwards, then connect from the neck width to that 5 inches. For the turtleneck, I will mark 2 inches downwards from the shoulder line and connect it to the neck width with my curved ruler. I will mark 1 inch as the width of the turtleneck. I'll connect the dart line upwards this way, then go ahead and cut it out. I was done cutting the upper front pattern. What I'm going to do now is to cut the skirt part. I'm going to remove the dart on the skirt because I don't want this front skirt to have dart. You can leave yours if you wish. So I'm going to mark 1 inch by the side of the waistline and reconnect it to the hip line. For the back pattern, I have marked 2 inches downwards from the tip of my pattern paper as my shoulder line, and I've also marked my bust line. I'm going to label it. On the shoulder line, I'm going to come in by 2.5 inches for the neck width, and I'm also going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. On the 8 inches mark, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope and connect from the neck width to the shoulder slope. Placing my tape on the shoulder slope, I'll come downwards by 7 inches for the armhole level, and I'm going to connect with a straight line. Now, on the point where the armhole level ended, I'm going to extend the line outwards and label my chest line. I will mark the midpoint of the straight line. On that midpoint, I'll come in by 1/2 inch, and on my chest line, I'll mark what of my bust circumference. They use my curved ruler to connect from my shoulder slope to the 1/2 inch I came in by to the quarter of the bust circumference I marked on my chest line to form my armhole curve. Placing my tape on the shoulder line, I will mark my half length square across. Placing my tape on the half length, I'll mark 9 inches downwards for my hip line. I'll also mark the knee line, the full length and the allowance, and square across, and I'll also go ahead and label these lines. For the dart, I'll mark 4 inches on my waistline, on the bust line and on the hip line, and connect with a straight line. On the dart line, I will mark 6 inches downwards from the half length, and on the half length, I'll come in by 1/2 inch on both sides of the dart line and connect it upwards to the bust line and downwards to the 6 inches I marked. I'll mark what of my bust circumference on the bust line and add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. At the zip side, I'll come in by 1/2 inch on the half length and connect it upwards to the shoulder line and downwards to the knee line. This is to avoid zipper bulge. From the 1/2 inch I came in by at the half length, I will mark quarter of my waist circumference and 1.5 inch sewing allowance and replace the 1 inch dart. On the hip line, I will divide my hip circumference by 4 and mark, and I'll add extra 1.5 inch sewing allowance. On the knee line, I will minus 3 inches from the hip measurement and divide it by 4, mark whatever it gave me there, and add extra 1.5 inch sewing allowance. I'll mark the same measurement on the allowance line, on the full length and on the allowance line. Then go ahead and connect all the points. For the neck depth, I will mark 2 inches downwards from my shoulder line and connect with a curved ruler. I'm also going to mark 1 inch downwards for the turtle neckline and connect it. I will square across the chest line and the upper part becomes my back yoke. After that, I'll go ahead and cut it out. Now for the sleeve, I'll place my tape on the tip of my pattern paper and mark 4 inches downwards. This 4 inches is my biceps line. I will also mark my sleeve length of 9 inches and square across the lines. I'll take the measurement of one of my armholes. On the biceps line, I will impute whatever measurement I got. With a slanted line, I'll connect from the tip or the beginning of my pattern to the measurement I marked on the biceps line. I'll divide this slanted line into two and mark the midpoint. I'll use my curved ruler to connect from the tip to the midpoint and from the midpoint to the end of the bicep line this way. On the sleeve full length, I will mark half of my arm measurement and add extra 1.5 inch sewing allowance. I will take the measurement of the curve to make sure it matches the measurement on my pattern. The measurement of the curve was bigger by 1 inch, so I came down by 1 inch, then connected from the biceps line to the full length. After that, I'll go ahead and cut it out. For the turtleneck, I'm going to get another pattern paper and fold it into two. Then I will place this front turtleneck pattern on it. I'm going to add 1/2 inch round and cut it out. Then I'm going to do the same for the pattern of the turtleneck for the back. After cutting it out, I'm going to open up and place it together this way. Then I'll use my masking tape to hold it together. Now that I fold it together and I have one piece, I'm going to cut it on my fabric. I'll fold the pattern paper and I'll also fold the fabric into two, then place the pattern paper on it, go ahead and cut it out. And I won't be adding sewing allowance because all the allowance have been added on the pattern. And I'll be cutting two pieces of this. One will be the main fabric and the other will be the lining. I was done cutting. What I'm going to do now is start joining the pieces together. This is the center front and the side front. I'm going to remove the pattern papers and join the two side fronts to the center using 1/2 inch. I'll do this for the main fabric and the lining. For the back, I will trace and sew the dart on the two back piece. I was on sewing the dart on the two back piece. As you can see, what I'm going to do now is to join the back yoke to the back piece. To do this, I'll place the yoke and the back piece front facing front and sew it using 1/2 inch. I'll do the same for the other back piece. I've also joined the front piece together and the lining as well. What I'm going to do is to also attach the yoke of the front. I will turn this part of the yoke with my bias. I'll do this for the two sides. Now I'll go back to my machine and do this and be back. For this turtleneck, I'm going to place my pattern on it and mark where the back started from. I'm going to notch it. I will close the entire upper part, and then for the down part, I'm going to close only the front and leave the back part open because I'll be attaching the back to the yoke neckline. So guys, I am so sorry my camera did not record a whole lot of process. I was just sewing not knowing that my camera has stopped recording. I was even contemplating if I should upload this tutorial or not. I uploaded because I know that some people actually know what to do from where it stopped. So what you're going to do is after attaching the yoke of the front and the back, you're going to turn the front using its lining. And I also joined the shoulders of the yoke. And for the turtleneck, like I said, you're going to sew the upper part of the turtleneck. And for the down part, I'm going to close only the front, then notch where the back started from, then attach from the shoulder of the back, then attach from the shoulder to the center back, and from the other shoulder to the center back. If you understand what I said, fine. But if you don't, drop detailed tutorial in the comment section and I'll make a detailed tutorial on how to go about this turtleneck. I also fixed the sleeve. What I'm going to do now is to close the sleeve and the sides. So I'm going to pin the sides of the back and front together, and I'm going to pin it down from the sleeve to the full length. I will mark 1.5 inch from the sleeve to the full length because that's the sewing allowance we added, and I'm doing this on both sides. At the center back, I will mark 1 inch for the zip allowance. For the back slit, I will mark 2 inches upwards from the full length. This 2 inches is for folding, and from that 2 inches, I will mark 9 inches for the slit. From the shoulder, I will mark 20 inches downwards. This is where I'll be fixing the zip. From that mark, I will close to where the slit started from and fold the slit part and the hem. And that will be all for the cutting and sewing of this dress. If you find this video helpful and you've learned something, please hit on that subscribe button below and do not forget to turn on your notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks for watching and see you guys in my next tutorial.